All right, welcome to today's masterclass. This is called Healthier, Happier, Hotter, my proven formula for transforming into your most empowered, confident, and radiant self. I am Lane Van Lieshout, certified functional practitioner, and I knew I was probably going to cry. But before we dive in, just to be honest about how I'm feeling, get it together. I am going through a lot with my family right now and experiencing some sadness. And so I was sharing on my social media yesterday just how ironic it is that we're teaching a class on being happy today. But it just goes to show like we can have both, and that's part of life. And we're working through the ebbs and flows of everything. So I just wanted to be transparent about that. Life is not perfect. I have been on quite a bit with my healing journey as it is, but I always tell my clients this too, is that our healing journey is never over. And so even though we get so far, there's always going to be evolution and having to elevate into our next level. And so just know that even though I have come a long way in my own experience, I'm also still actively working through things and healing alongside you. So I honestly went back and forth on whether I could even deliver this class today with all that we're going through, but intuitively I felt like I had to, even more because we're witnessing how chronic disease is taking its toll and is just driving me even more to want to help create a healthier world, which starts with me and you. So we can lessen the chronic disease and truly live and feel our best, not just now, like sooner than later, but also to create longevity. So even more passionate about my mission, which is to help you achieve total body health by optimizing your gut, brain, and hormones. And the whole concept of healthier, happier, hotter came from the fact that at the core, a more balanced body equals you feel healthier. More supported mental well-being equals you feel happier. And when you combine both of those and you have this confidence that's on fire, you're naturally going to be hotter. And I don't mean this in an overly superficial way. It's so much more about how you feel about yourself and just being in your own skin when things are balanced and you just have this glow from within. I have talked to a lot of women over the past few years who want to feel better, both mentally and physically, because when we feel our best and we feel confident in our skin, we can show up better for our everyday lives, whether that's our jobs, our families, ourselves, and just the things that we enjoy day to day. It's about being more present. So I love to just allow this to be interactive and let me know in the chat. You'll find the chat button towards the bottom usually. I'd love for you just to reflect on if you're open to it, sharing in the chat what couple things, maybe two or three things come to mind for you that would happen when you feel better mentally and physically. When you're feeling healthier, happier, hotter, what does that actually mean for you? Some examples are eating foods without restriction, getting rid of gut symptoms, clothes fitting better, periods are easier, more energy, more confidence, more calm and centered. Let me know what comes to mind for you. Let me just see if I can see it on my end. Yeah, more in flow, lighter, feeling in my body, happier, connected, energy, more regulated nervous system, waking up feeling energized. Yeah, like just ready for the day, ready for what life is bringing, all the beauty that we have to experience. So thank y'all for sharing. I want you to start thinking of this transformation that you're wanting out of this, and then I'm going to help you start to see how that's possible for you. So we're going to dive in, and bear with me. My setup's different than my normal because I'm not in my home right now. I'm out of town. So if things are a little slow on this end, it's just because it's not my normal setup. But we're going to go ahead and dive in. And what we're going to be covering is the number one thing you can do for total body health and well-being, the primary factor influencing your moods and how to sustain longer periods of uplifted emotions, the simple formula that you can start today to step into your most empowered wellness era. So I encourage you to get the most out of this class and silence notifications on your phone if you can, just to be present with me and soak all of this in. Definitely feel free to take any notes. You might even want to take some screenshots along the way. There's going to be some key takeaways that I want you to have with this. Any questions that you have, just throw them in the chat and we're going to circle back to them at the end. And definitely stick with me to the end because I'm going to be sharing something really special that I have not announced publicly yet, but it's also going to help you see that there's a clear path forward to feeling your best and transforming into the healthiest, most empowered version of you. So, first, I just want to explain a little bit about me and how I landed here in this role. I have a master's of science in nursing from Georgetown. I am a certified functional practitioner. And with all of that combined over the years, that's 9 years of formal education and 10 years of hands on experience. And most people in the health and wellness space, especially the more integrative or functional space, have likely had our own health journey that made us pivot and figure out a different way. So I always thought I was healthy. I had no major symptoms or daily issues, but there was a time in my mid-20s where there was a clear night and day difference. And I was experiencing this. Oh, yay, fellow nurse. Hello, Lynette. I'm so glad you're here. I was experiencing this debilitating anxiety. It was presenting as physical symptoms for me, which I was very much not used to. So I had dizziness, insomnia, exhaustion. This, of course, led to burnout because I was so tired of feeling bad, but also not sleeping. And then over the months and years, this progressed to stomach pain at random times, reacting to healthy foods, near fainting spells, which were quite alarming. And this really fed a lot of health fear and anxiety around my health. I thought I was dying, to be honest. And I was also really frustrated because one, I felt disconnected from my body. I was worried about how I'd feel every day. And especially because my conventional training wasn't helping me. Despite all my years of school at that point, I'm like, but what's going on? I still don't understand. So, of course, I was seeking care at this point, had all these connections in the health space, but my labs were normal. I felt totally alone. There was no explanation for what I was going through other than you just have anxiety, go see a therapist. So things kept getting worse. I didn't really have real solutions, but I'm just the type of person that I was not going to accept that as my story or my normal anymore. And I knew that there had to be answers. So that is when I did a deep dive and learned about functional medicine and learned all about nutrient gaps and gut health and our adrenals and cortisol and nervous system. And in my learning, I implemented all of these strategies to help my body rebalance naturally. And thank goodness I no longer struggle with those daily symptoms. That's not to say it's not perfect, right? And it's not to say that I don't still have some days that are better than others, because that's life, ebbs and flows, like I said in the beginning. But it has allowed me to have a much better daily experience to where I just feel calm in my body more often than not. And I don't have any gut symptoms, brain symptoms, mood, anything like that. So since then, I've refined my approach and I've turned it into a process to now support you in your own journey to resolve symptoms at the root so you can also feel your best every day. Here is just a quick client testimonial so you can start seeing what's possible when we optimize your body and get to the root causes. Rachel says that since this program, she hasn't needed caffeine despite the fatigue that she was previously experiencing relying on caffeine. She was no longer having to rely on it. She can eat gluten and dairy without being miserable for hours afterwards. No more bowel urgency or loose stools, significant decrease in bloating to the point where she doesn't have to take her tight-waisted pants off if she doesn't want every afternoon. And she just says, you've been the missing piece I needed to fully heal my gut and hormones through personalized testing, supplements, and specific foods and nutrients. So let's dive in. This is where we're going to start kind of going into how to experience feeling your healthiest, happiest, hottest. And the first thing that you need to know is gut health optimization is key. This is what I really hone in on with my clients because it is so integral to the whole body. And I want you to realize that it's all connected. So gut health optimization equals feeling and being healthier. You know the saying that all disease begins of the gut. Well, that also thankfully means that health begins in the gut as well. So let me know in the chat, have we heard of gut health? I'm sure you have, but let me know more. Is it still kind of a foreign concept to you? Do you have a good grasp on it? Just kind of where are you with gut health? And we're gonna help clear up anything and make it simple for you. Yes, gut health, I know, there's a lot of intricacies with it, but hopefully with this, it will be broken down in a way where you're like, okay, this makes so much sense. It doesn't have to be as complicated as we're led to believe, but it's one of those like trendy topics, but it's not always well understood. So I like to talk about the gut in three main categories. So we have the gut microbiome, which is the balance of bugs, the gut lining, and digestive capacity. So first, let's talk about the microbiome. This is usually where people understand gut health the most. Like we talk about the bacterial balance, and the microbiome is so crucial because it allows our body to function optimally, helping us digest food, create nutrients, supports metabolism, helps reduce inflammation. Sorry, we have someone else coming in. Carly, can you let them in? Do you see them? Okay, we're good. All right. Preventing and reversing illness. And overall, it's just important for optimizing other processes of the body because, like I mentioned, health does begin in the gut and everything is connected. So, when the microbiome is not optimal, which means either there's too low of good bugs, which we actually see in this top part, we see some that are very low or not even detected, or we can see overgrowths of quote bad bugs. We'll call them bad just for simplicity purposes, but they're not always bad. They we just don't want there to be too many of them in many cases, and we also want to better understand why they were able to overgrow in the first place. So instead of labeling the bugs bad, let's figure out why the ecosystem is out of balance. And the overgrowths we can see here. So we're testing for bacteria and parasites on this test. This is a GI map. We also are detecting candida oftentimes as well. So when we have imbalances like this, whether it's too low of good bugs, too high of the bad or opportunistic bugs, usually it's a combination of both, and we call that dysbiosis. This can show up in our physical body that's not even connected. You wouldn't even think it's directly connected to the gut. So yes, of course, the GI symptoms like stomach discomfort, bloating, nausea, low appetite, IBS type symptoms or abnormal bowels, but also it can show up in our skin health like inflammation, acne, rosacea, hives. It can affect our brain, so energy, our moods. It can contribute to headaches or fatigue or insomnia. And it can also contribute to hormonal imbalances, which we're going to talk in just a moment. But what's so important here is to bring balance back to this gut ecosystem where we need to so that optimal function can be restored. So this is often an area that we focus on really early on after we get testing back. So next is the gut lining. I want you to imagine a thin skin layer that is lining the inside of our intestines. This helps to keep everything that's in the gut, and only certain things can cross that barrier, like our water and nutrients, etc. This is important for two main reasons. Number one is the regulation of our immune system, because about 2/3 of our immune system lies in the gut just past this gut lining. There's a couple labs here on the screen. The secretory IgA is a data point for our immune response. And on the top picture, you can see that it's functioning low, and on the bottom picture, it's functioning high. So neither of these are optimal, as you would imagine by looking at this. And so both overfunction and underfunction are clues that we need to support the gut immune system and try to understand why it's what it's up against so that we can support it. Another important role of the gut lining is keeping inflammation under control. When the gut lining is not optimal, kind of what I just mentioned is like with the immune system and inflammation. So we can see issues with both of those areas. When I say the gut lining not being optimal, what I'm referring to is this skin layer has gotten worn down and has become more leaky. This is where the term leaky gut comes from, which is often another buzzword or trendy word, but not really well understood. And so things that were once contained in the gut can now pass through inappropriately, which will expose that gut immune system that's laying right there. And then that will create an inflammatory response because that's how our bodies are designed. This is okay for a short-term period. Our bodies are meant to respond to a threat and take care of it. But if this if this is an ongoing issue and the immune system is constantly being triggered and triggered and triggered, we're going to see inflammation just continue. And that point, the inflammation is no longer going to be contained in the gut. We can see it systemically. So therefore creating this dysfunction and disease that can later be diagnosed. So when it comes to our immune system, this often affects how often we get sick or our ability to fight infections, even ongoing chronic infections like ongoing viral infections, sinus or respiratory issues, an increased risk for autoimmunity and food intolerances. This is like a touchy subject for people with food intolerances because you think the food's the problem, but actually it's your gut. The gut is the problem. And if we can restore balance with your ecosystem and restore integrity of that gut lining to where your immune system is no longer being exposed inappropriately to partially digested food, then we can actually reverse food intolerances and build up a resilience that allows you to eat a little bit of any food in most cases. When it comes to the inflammatory response, we can see this affect the skin, the thyroid. Women often tell me they just feel puffy. They can't really put their finger on it. They just feel puffy, like in their face or their body overall. It can affect the brain, showing up as fatigue, headaches, mood swings, low concentration. And because this is a form of physical stress, it can affect our cortisol and other stress hormones or other hormones as a whole. So we will talk more about that in just a few minutes. What I need you to know is that, yes, we can correct these things and find solutions for them, okay? You don't have to just be like, oh, I have leaky gut and food intolerances and dysbiosis or SIBO forever. No, we can absolutely find solutions for them and get you in a better place. Okay, let's talk about the third component of the gut, and then I'm going to give you one of my favorite strategies to start today. Carrie said in the comments, good understanding about gut health, but missing some practical tips. So we're going to talk about some practical tips in just a few minutes. All right, next is digestive capacity. I also call this digestive fluid. So this is all kind of lumped in the same. And there's three main ones I'm going to talk about now. That's stomach acid, digestive enzymes, and bile. So basically, all of the juices that get released during meal times that help us to optimally break down our food, extract our nutrients like minerals and fats and protein, and it also helps keep our immune system balanced and prevents bacteria from overgrowing and parasites for that matter. When we have insufficient levels of these secretions or these fluids being released during meals, we can definitely see some bloating with meals because the food's not getting broken down. So it's going to sit around for longer and be fermented more by the bacteria, and that will create excess gas and discomfort in many cases. That can also lead to belching, abdominal discomfort, nausea, low appetite. And one people don't think about a lot is you get full really quickly. That's a sign as well. We can even see nutrient insufficiencies when our digestive capacity or digestive fluids are not optimized, such as vitamin D, vitamin B12, and iron. They're some of the ones I see most commonly. And beyond that, there are other health implications when these fluids are not optimal because they help keep that balance in the ecosystem. So when we have too little stomach acid or enzymes or bile, we can see an increased risk for bacterial or parasitic overgrowth, which of course will affect the whole body because of everything we just shared. I'm going to show you a few patterns on testing that we can detect on the GI map that just help, one, give us the clues and the information we need to see what needs to be optimized, but also put the whole picture together and how does it fit in the context of the symptoms that a person is experiencing. So on the left, we see bacterial overgrowths, H. pylori being one of them. This is pretty common, and you may have heard of this. And we see these overgrow usually when there's insufficient stomach acid, because again, that helps keep everything in balance and prevents overgrowths of bacteria and other bugs. On the right, we see steatocrit elevated, which is a measure of fat in our stool. And this is just telling us that fat is not being digested well. That will often cause loose stools and things like low vitamin D levels because vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin. We can also see low pancreatic enzymes. That's elastase 1 over here. So that can also contribute to more bloating and nutrient insufficiencies. So if you're ready to start optimizing gut health now, please know this is also going to help support your hormones on that front too. So it's always about both. And here's one of the first things we actually teach our clients when they get started with us, and it has to do with nutrition, specifically how we structure our plate. So I love a visual. I often share visuals with clients and just in classes like this because I know other people are visual learners like me. But so screenshot this if you would find this helpful. Here, if you imagine your plate, we're going to be putting a high focus on fiber and plant foods, as well as protein and fats. This is going to help create an environment for your good bacteria and gut immune system to thrive. I do want to point out that if you're experiencing more gut symptoms with things like plants or beans or fermented foods, it's time for a stool test because we need to get a handle on the microbiome and figure out why there's excess fermentation and discomfort there, why you're not breaking them down optimally, because that is going to point towards bacterial imbalances or insufficient stomach acid or enzymes. So to talk through this, the focus here is to aim for about half a plate of our non-starchy vegetables. So that's leafy greens, onions, peppers, tomatoes, cucumber. There's so many options here. This is going to help feed our good bacteria and other bugs and just support a healthy gut and liver as a whole. Then the top right corner, we have a quarter plate of protein. This will support the gut immune system, our brain, neurotransmitters, and hormones. And then we have a quarter plate of our starchy vegetables or carbs like potatoes, rice, or other grains, fruit, etc. And we like to top off our plate with some sort of healthy fat. So this can be healthy oils, even if it's the oil that our food has been cooked in. This can be coconut, avocado, olives, nuts and seeds, nut butters, regular butter if you're tolerant of dairy. And then in the upper left corner, we do have some gut-friendly additions as tolerated. So these can be fermented foods like kimchi or sauerkraut or yogurt and pickled foods. So the purpose of the plate structure is to help optimize the foundation of nutrition from a both macro and micronutrient standpoint. And we actually do not have our clients count or measure food. We lean on this as a guide instead. We like to not micromanage every bite that we eat and instead just build a strong foundation so people can eat more intuitively and just visualize what a balanced plate looks like instead of adding stress of counting and measuring every little thing. So in following a plate structure guideline like this is going to naturally help us reduce highly processed foods. We know that highly processed foods, meaning things that have been stripped of their nutritional value, there's artificial ingredients or inflammatory ingredients or excess sugar. This can wreak havoc on our gut and our hormones. So I love to start with plate structure and also tie in the crowd out method with this. The crowd out method simply means we're increasing whole foods to help crowd out the more highly processed foods. It's a great strategy because instead of feeling like, oh, I just can't eat that type of food, or I have to remove all these foods I'm used to eating, instead, let's start with adding more to your plate, more plants, more protein, more fats, and you will naturally have less room to consume the highly processed foods. So it's kind of like a nice transition without it feeling really stressful. So we love to start clients out with this. And then when you work with us, we actually tailor nutrition recommendations specifically to you. And our team integrative nutritionist is excellent at this. That's Carly. She is up here with us. All of our clients in our program get access to her. So what we do is we start with the foundations and then help our clients implement based on their preferences and lifestyle. And then we take your testing and see where we can fine tune and boost certain types of food groups. And essentially, we're using food as medicine in that standpoint. Okay, how are we doing? Give me a thumbs up on the screen or in the chat. Are you still with me? We doing good? Okay. So the next thing to know is we're going to kind of switch gears just a little bit and move into the happier portion. So how do we feel happier is we have to optimize our gut, but also our hormones. So I'm not going to talk a ton more about the gut because I think we've covered that, but I am going to tie a little bit in with that. And then we're going to transition to more hormone discussion. So when your gut and hormones are optimized, we will feel happier. Okay. And if you thought before that your gut had nothing to do with your moods or your brain health, because maybe you don't have a ton of gut symptoms, I'm here to tell you that your gut is still important, even if it's not obvious just yet. And here's why. So your gut is like your second brain. It is also responsible for a large percentage of our neurotransmitters. About 90% of serotonin, 50% of dopamine is made by the microbiome. So this will help influence our nervous system by communicating via the vagus nerve. And that is how our gut and brain are connected and communicate. Most of that communication goes from gut to brain, not the other way around. So that means that when we optimize gut health, we will naturally be optimizing brain health, which impacts our moods, energy, concentration, and more. To briefly circle back to the leaky gut dynamic and the inflammation that can come from that, when the gut is inflamed and that barrier is worn down and more leaky, our immune system is creating inflammation. This can also affect our nervous system, leading to neuroinflammation. And this is where moods can be impacted as well. And lastly, we know we need optimal gut health to have optimal nutrients because of the role the microbiome plays, as well as our digestive capacity to extract and absorb those nutrients. So you can be consuming a beautifully balanced diet, but if our body's not able to convert or absorb those nutrients to be used, then we can still see issues with nutrients. And especially some of the key ones for our brain health and moods like protein, fatty acids, magnesium, and zinc. So we're going to switch gears. Let's dive into hormones because this is, of course, important for our brain and our moods as well. And it's absolutely an area that we want to support when it comes to our overall happiness. So let me know in the chat, do you think that you might have hormonal imbalances? You can just say yes or me or no. Throw me a favorite emoji. Potentially is very common, and it's usually a part of our client stories to some degree. So we're going to cover kind of the basics, or the ones that I see most prevalently. Carrie says, without a doubt, hormone stuff is so common. It really is. So we're going to talk about blood sugar, cortisol, progesterone and estrogen balance, and the thyroid. Blood sugar is one of my favorites to talk about because this is another place I like to focus on early on with clients, because I actually find that we can get a lot of relief when we just support blood sugar stability. And I'm not talking about diabetes. I'm talking about low blood sugar as a very common issue, or the up and down roller coaster. So glucose is our primary source of energy production, including where our brain gets energy. When our blood sugar stability is suboptimal, meaning it's high or it's low or it's just back and forth, that roller coaster, we can see mood swings, energy crashes, feeling hangry, which I know we say as a joke sometimes, but it's a real thing, irritability, sleep issues, poor concentration. And when it comes to labs for this, checking a blood sugar and hemoglobin A1C is just not enough, especially if we're suspicious of the potential of insulin resistance. So we have to get the full picture here with testing, because early on in the blood sugar dynamic, things can look normal. It takes months to years to start to see changes in your A1C. So we start working on this right off the bat, and that plate structure that I just shared is a great starting point for this as well. Highly recommend that for everyone to get started, and then we can kind of fine tune based on your individual needs and labs and expand from there. All right, next, cortisol. You've probably heard of this hormone. It's very trendy as well. We love that these things are trendy, but we also want to clear up some confusion and myths about them. So this is our primary stress hormone and is considered a master hormone, meaning that it can impact other hormones in our body. It helps stabilize energy, mood, brain function, our immune system, inflammation, and many other body functions. I'm actually going to show you some testing examples really quick. This is the Dutch test, or a very small snapshot of what the Dutch test will test for. And this is a normal cortisol pattern. So the red line is the values for this particular person. We see cortisol increase in the morning and then trend down lower as the day goes on. So this helps with daytime energy and then nighttime restfulness. When cortisol is not optimal, we can see a few different scenarios. One is we can see high cortisol, and this is usually in response to an acute stress. So, like a fight or flight type situation. This red line is going well above the reference range for this person. And often people will feel wired, anxious, but unable to sleep, fatigued, distracted, brain fog. And then if stress is ongoing, what we can actually see is suppressed cortisol levels. This is one of the ways our body protects us, but unfortunately, it does come with some symptoms that are not the most fun. So this happens when stress is ongoing for a very long time. So chronic stress. Of course, it can be mental, emotional, but what people often don't think about is the physical stress that can contribute to cortisol changes like inflammation and gut health imbalances or insufficient nutrients. So we can see that cortisol drop over time because your adrenals are being told by the brain to reduce cortisol output for your protection. This often leaves people feeling very energy depleted despite sleeping all night, relying on endless amounts of caffeine, but it's not really making a difference. Moody, irritable, dizzy with standing is really common. Heavier brain fog, low motivation, poor concentration. You might notice that there is a little overlap in some of these symptoms. They're not always cut and dry, and they can present similarly. I have definitely been surprised with clients sometimes. I could have sworn they'd be one or the other, but then we test and they're the opposite, which is exactly why we test and we don't just make guesses here. You don't want to mess with hormones blindly. And so if we were to say, oh, it sounds like you have high cortisol, let's lower it, but yet they already had low cortisol, we're going to be making the problem worse. So the other part of this is there's other factors that can present just like this as well. Your cortisol could be optimal, but it's something else contributing to the picture. So that's why we don't go in blindly after these things. Next, estrogen and progesterone. This is actually one of my favorites to talk about because a lot of women find me also for period type symptoms. So estrogen and progesterone, the key here is the balance between the two. When they're well balanced, they support metabolism, healthy menstrual cycles, moods, skin, sleep. And when it comes to those period symptoms, this falls under the estrogen dominant category, which is really just like an umbrella term. And we're going to talk about that. But usually it presents as heavy or painful periods, significant PMS, mood or energy changes, fibroids or scar or tissue overgrowth, cyclical acne, headaches. Very, very common, but I need you to know it's not normal and it does not have to be this way forever. So even though those types of symptoms can point to excess estrogen, it's often not excess estrogen that's the problem. Like estrogen wouldn't be measured high. This can more often that I've found be caused by low progesterone, impaired liver clearance of estrogen, or it can be a combination of those plus toxins or hormone disruptors. So I'm going to show you an example on labs. Here we see estrogen is technically within normal, but progesterone is really low. Progesterone is a calming hormone, and when it's low, we can see increased anxiousness or trouble sleeping. And then here's the thing. Just because even though estrogen is normal here, progesterone is much lower in comparison. So this will skew the balance and make estrogen the dominant hormone, even if estrogen is not technically high. Here's another example. And I have had clients come to me with all of the estrogen dominant symptoms. And I'm like, you're bound to be high estrogen. But we find this on labs. So at the top, we actually see low estrogen. It's so surprising to me sometimes. Progesterone is beautiful. So it's not that there's excess estrogen or too little progesterone. In this case, the issue is in the liver. The liver's not detoxing the estrogen well. So even the low levels of estrogen are not being cleared optimally, and that can by itself contribute to symptoms of estrogen dominance. So in this case, we don't want to lower the estrogen. We need to support the liver, which is a totally different strategy. And just yet another example of why we don't start hormone targeted supplements unless we have testing, because we could be making the problem worse if it's not the right fit for that person. All right, wrapping up the thyroid or the hormone section with the thyroid. The thyroid's like our metabolic thermostat. It helps determine how fast or slow things are running in our body and affects essentially every organ system, and such as our metabolism itself, but also our energy, how well our brain is functioning. Are our moods low? Are they more anxious? Even our temperature. So when the thyroid is overactive, it's very common to feel more wired and anxious. When it's underactive, we often feel more sluggish and depressive moods can set in. And I'm willing to bet that if you happen to have had thyroid labs before, you maybe just got a TSH checked. If you're lucky, maybe a T4. If you're really lucky, maybe some more. But there is a really big difference in the standard testing and the conventional reference ranges versus what we do here and how we look for optimal levels instead. So a key takeaway with hormones is this. I have a lot of clients come to me all the time wanting to optimize their hormones, but hormones are usually not the root problem. Yes, we want to support hormones, but we must be digging deeper to understand why they're off balance in the first place, because we can chase hormones all day. But if we're not addressing the root causes of them being off, we're going to be chasing them forever, which is where number one, key testing comes in. And number two, let's get your gut health in check. So even if someone comes to me with no major gut symptoms, if we're seeing systemic symptoms or issues or clues of hormonal imbalance, I'm still willing to bet that the gut needs to be optimized, even if it's not obvious right away. Does that make sense? Get a sip of water. Y'all still with me? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if we're doing good. Okay. So to summarize kind of what we've covered, optimizing gut health allows us to feel healthier. Addressing hormonal imbalances and the gut help us to feel happier. And then when you combine both of those things, which means we're optimizing metabolism, our clothes can fit better, we're more radiant in our own skin, we have a whole nother level of confidence and attraction. And so remember that this is so much more about how you feel in your skin than anything else, okay? So here is another concept that you can actually start today. You might want to screenshot this. This is the concept of maximize, minimize, prioritize, and is something I also teach my clients regularly. This is especially great if you don't know where to start with your health, or you're overwhelmed with all of the information that's out there, or maybe you're trying to do too much and you're like, I need to simplify my life. This is wonderful. It's also helpful when we're in busier seasons. We can always fall back on this. So maximize the helpful. This is going to look like our whole nutrient-dense foods, our protein, fat, and fiber, hydration, minerals, sleep, downtime, sunlight, people who lift you up, and things that help you to feel more calm and safe. How can we bring more of this into our lives? Next is minimize the harmful. So this means reducing highly processed foods, artificial foods, inflammatory ingredients, reducing stressful situations or people to the best of our ability, reducing toxins, reducing the constant rushing and hustle. And third is prioritizing an environment for healing. So this looks like our day-to-day. What are our routines? Do we have a community? What things can we incorporate to bring you more peace and joy and parasympathetic activation, which is our rest and digest nervous system state? It really can be this simple, at least to get you started in the right direction today. And if you want to take it a step further or a few steps further and really just feel better and better and better, we need to hone in on a customized approach for you with labs and strategy to help you fast track results. So I'm going to give you a peek into a client case study. This is a 30-year-old female. She finished up with me earlier this year, and she wanted to optimize exhaustion, irritability, bloating and acid reflux, nausea, poor appetite, low concentration, depressive and anxious type symptoms, painful periods. She was on birth control, still having painful periods, which is very common. And she says I was surviving at best when she first came to me. So what we did, we implemented my 3-step formula. So this is going to include our comprehensive labs to take a look at her gut and hormones. We then optimized and customized a protocol for her based on her labs and her health story and her goals. We always tailor it to what the person also feels is really important for them. And then we supported her in implementing strategically over the course of 6 months. Here's a little of what we found on her testing. We did identify patterns of dysbiosis. So we see overgrown bacteria up here at the top, contributing to her bloating and reflux. We also saw liver burden. So that's the beta glucuronidase right here, not optimal. And this just tells us that the liver is likely not clearing her estrogen optimally, leading to those period symptoms, but it can also lead to higher amounts of inflammation and contribute to energy crashes and just not feeling like herself and her body. We saw intestinal inflammation, suboptimal thyroid function, suboptimal vitamin D levels. So even though that vitamin D is not flagged low, it's not optimal. This is just a small snapshot of what we found in her testing and just the most relevant pieces of her health story. And from there, we, of course, got her started on her supplements and nutrition protocols to address everything step by step. And so that is when things really started significantly changing for her. Within 6 months, she said she was feeling like an entirely new person. And here is her testimonial. I want you to know that even though we worked together for 6 months, she was feeling better within the first couple of weeks of working together. And we just kept stacking wins along the way. So within that time, she says, I got answers to questions that doctors had ignored or cast aside. And for the first time, I understood what was happening with my body and could actually take action. I didn't feel like I was crazy anymore. I want to pause on that sentence because I think a lot of times women, especially when we don't have concrete answers, when we go to seek care, we are left feeling crazy. I know I felt that way before. Maybe you're just having these symptoms because you're a female or you work full time or you're a mom or you've reached a certain age in life. This is just how it's going to be forever. But I think that we're just part of a movement that's not accepting that anymore. And we know our bodies better than anyone else ever will. And so we're taking more empowered action and finding another way. So she also says, I felt like an entirely new person. She has not only the energy to finish her workday, but also be with her family. She's much less irritable. She has joy again. Even her depression and anxiety have improved. Bloating and heartburn are virtually gone. And she was also able to go off birth control, yet having easier periods than ever. I didn't put this on the screen, but just a couple months ago, she actually told me she's pregnant. And so her confidence that she was setting her body up for success to get pregnant so effortlessly, she attributed to optimizing her gut and hormones in the months prior. And this works because of this tried and true formula, because we're getting to the root of the symptoms here. We're not just slapping a Band-Aid on or suppressing a symptom and sending you on your way. We're actually getting down to the bottom of why symptoms might be surfacing and you're experiencing those things. So this is important because we don't want to just give you a standard, here you go do these 3 things and your life will be changed. It's like, no, let's tailor this to you so that you can feel the benefits of optimal health now, but also stack the cards in your favor for longevity purposes. So if what we have covered today is your vibe, if this resonates with you and you want to dig deeper, stick around because I'm about to share something really special with you for the first time publicly. And it's actually going to be a new way to work with me and Carly and get all of your labs done. This has been an idea in my brain for the past year or so, and I've been fine-tuning everything during this time to perfect it for you. So I'm really excited to share that we are opening enrollment for Elevated Wellness. It is the total gut and hormone reboot experience with labs, with customization, and community. I often only work with clients one-to-one, and the fact of the matter is I can only take on so many clients with that model, and I wanted to bring in an extra layer of support for you, which is the community piece. I know firsthand the healing journey can be really lonely and isolating, which is exactly why having other people to lean on and support you in the process is so impactful, and it increases the success rate. So this is really our tried and true program that includes your labs, your custom protocols, the private support, but now also with community and group calls to elevate the experience even more. So Carly has actually put the link in the chat if you want to check it out when we're done, but I'm also going to tell you about it more now so you can fully understand what this is and also what it's not and who it's for. So this is for the empowered woman who is driven and determined to feel her best physically and mentally. She knows optimal total body health is a priority. She is ready to take appropriate action. She's looking for clarity and a roadmap to help her gut and brain and hormones thrive based on her labs and physiology. She desires the customized support and not that standard one-size-fits-all protocol. She wants to be proactive and preventative, and she wants more for herself and knows that feeling her best will support that dream. I don't think we have any fellas in the room today, but if any are listening, we love to support you as well. But this community is going to be for women only, at least for right now. So we can still support you on a private basis, but this is a community of women. So as a member of the Elevated Wellness Experience, this is really what's included. So let's break that down. You're going to get your detailed labs, so your GI map. We're looking at your gut microbiome with this. The Dutch Complete, which is reproductive and cortisol hormones, as well as blood markers. So a full thyroid panel, vitamin D, and insulin. This is going to help us give that insight that we need to your body's overall balance and the areas that need support the most. Then we're going to fully customize everything to you. So this is going to look like targeted supplementations, tailored nutrition, lifestyle components, and this is going to be based on your labs and your health goals to optimize everything. And that way we will be able to holistically support your wellness. The third component that comes with this is the actual support piece. So you'll get monthly private calls with myself. That's where we're going to be reviewing your labs, implementing your protocol, and really ensuring that you have the necessary insight and guidance and resources for success. You'll also get monthly calls with Carly, our team integrative nutritionist, to support you with the real life application and the implementation of food as medicine. We're not just like, here's a food, only eat these foods. We're going to help fine tune that to you based on your preferences and your lifestyle. But also, we love to tailor it based on your labs as well, so that we can use less supplements and more food in many cases. We also will have twice monthly group coaching calls and deep dive masterclasses. So that way you'll have that supportive community and also expand your knowledge to understand your body even better. And all of this will be over the course of 6 months. So that gives us the time we need to implement your protocols, not only strategically, but also sustainably, so that your results can last and you can build that confidence. You will also get daily messaging access with us both. The goal and the purpose of Elevated Wellness is to help you reach holistic health. And this might look a little bit different for everybody, depending on what you're currently experiencing and what your goals are. But some common themes among our clients is they want comfortable digestion. They're excited to have uplifted moods and not feel as mood roller coastery. They want increased energy, speedy metabolism, easier periods, reduced inflammation. But above all else, our goal here is to help support and guide you in reaching optimal gut, brain, and hormone health without feeling like you're run through the gamut of toxic medications or feeling like you have these unfulfilling fad diets or that you just must accept everything as normal. So the value of this program is over $10,000. We're not only going to bring you this at a lesser investment than it would be to work privately together, but we're also increasing the value because of the community and the group calls that we're incorporating. So pre-sale enrollment is open as of now. The ones who are registered for this masterclass are the first to know, and we're actually not announcing it publicly for another couple of days. So you're kind of in a sweet spot to make moves on this if you want to take advantage. You are going to be saving $1,000 when you enroll by Sunday, which is this Sunday, September 1st. And this is the lowest the Elevated Wellness Experience will ever be. It's $4,997. Yes, there is a payment plan. And in addition to the special pricing, if you do enroll by this Sunday, the 1st, you'll also get a special wellness gift box from me that has some of my favorite products that I recommend to clients often. Then starting Monday, which is September 2nd, prices will be increasing throughout the next 2 weeks. So if you feel like you're a good fit for this program, if it feels aligned, we would love to have you in our world and help you experience the transformation that you've been looking for with your health. So I do invite you to join us inside Elevated Wellness to help you get there faster and easier. Here's another quick testimonial from what a recent client said about working with us. It was worth every penny. If I had access to someone like Lane years ago, believe me when I say I would have spent a lot less money overall. Seeing the full picture of what my body needed was incredible, and I've been able to see and feel the improvement each day. Lane showed me with proper testing the full picture of what was going on inside my body and taught me day by day ways to improve. And I'll always recommend her to anyone with gut or hormonal issues. And I love helping women in this way because our world has really normalized feeling poorly and just accepting like the bloating, feeling sluggish or stressed or moody or inflamed as normal. And we're led to believe we just have to deal with our symptoms or put band-aids on them. And we think that's our only option. But you're on this call right now for a reason. And I think you know that that's not your only option, actually, and that you have the power to become a healthy deviant. So if you're ready to transform into your most radiant version of you, we're excited to show you how. So if you're thinking this could be the best thing for you and you're ready to get to that next level of your wellness, and I encourage you to trust yourself and trust your gut. I'm going to show you a quick recap so that you know, again, like what all this entails, because it's very comprehensive on purpose, because we want to make sure we have the answers and protocols and support that is actually needed. So here's your labs. Again, we're customizing everything to you. And then we have both private support and the community of women who will be walking a similar path as you. You will get close proximity to us, not only with your private calls, but the daily messaging access so that we can fully support you. And if you're loving this idea, but you're on the fence, I am opening up additional spots to just book a call with me. No strings attached. Just before you make your final decision, you can simply talk with me through your specific situation and make sure we're a good fit and make sure that I can help you. So I will have Carly put that link in the chat now if you'd like to book a call first. It's there for you. And that is what I had for you today. So I want to open it up for any questions, whether that's about the program or what we discussed today. We can answer them right here on this call. This QR code also will take you straight to the website. So you can scan that with your phone and just look through the details, think it over. You've got 3 full days to kind of decide with the pre-sale, then it's actually going to be increasing by $1,000 over the next couple of weeks. All right. Let me have any of your questions. Feel free to, you can either come off of mute and talk to me or throw them in the chat. And if there's not any questions, that's okay too. I'm so glad that you were here with me today. I'll give you all a minute. Let me know. Yep, so we have all the details in the first link that's there, and then the call to book with me if you'd like. Question is, I'm already implementing most things you listed. Is this something that could still help me? Are you referring to like the plate structure and like what you're maximizing and minimizing in your life? Yeah. So I love that you're doing that. That's wonderful. And it's a great place to start. There's a ton more to cover that we cover with our clients. And the key that could be missing is the labs and then the customization, because the foundations of health don't change, like sunlight, water, nutrition, sleep, community, laughter, nervous system. Those will always be the core. But if we're still not seeing the transformation or reaching your health goals that you have, there's got to be other puzzle pieces that aren't being visualized or acknowledged quite yet. And that's where kind of removing the guesswork can be really helpful, and not only like getting the answers you need, but also helping you reach your goals even faster without the trial and error. I know a lot of people will be on, I've had clients come to me on, not even kidding, on 20 supplements. And I'm like, okay, how long have you been on these supplements? And I'm like, oh no, a few months to a few years. And the thing is, supplements are awesome, but if you're just trial and erroring and nothing seems to be sticking quite right, we've got to dig deeper. Are there ways for the solutions to be as holistic as possible? Not a fan of taking any medication. Yeah, that's what we're all about here. That's what we're all about. Now, some people ask, like, will I still support people even while they're on medication? And yes, absolutely. I'm not in a place to stop any of your medications, but what we can do is support your body so that your prescribing provider does not see the need for the medication anymore. So, yes, definitely holistic. And that is with supplements, nutrition, and lifestyle and routines and stuff like that. We don't do any prescriptions. Carly said, we also work with many women who have come to us saying, I feel like I'm doing everything right, but yep, still aren't feeling their best. And that is exactly what we help with, and I was there. I was that person. I'm like, I'm doing all of these things for my health. Why am I still so anxious and can't sleep? And why does my stomach hurt and all these things? And let me just tell you, there were things I was not doing right. And I didn't know it at the time. We're always just doing our best. But once I dug into true root cause stuff, I got a lot more insight with my own body and could fine tune and tailor things. But yeah, I'm glad to hear you're not on any medications, don't want to start any. Totally supportive of that. Awesome. Okay. Any last minute questions? We are right on time. That's impressive. It is 2 o'clock on the dot. Carrie, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm going to be getting this recording out by this evening is my plan. So there will be an email sent out so you can circle back to it. But yeah, please let me know if there's any questions that you have about anything at all. I'm so glad you're here today. Thank y'all again. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and hopefully I'll be talking to y'all later. Bye. Thank you, Carly.